Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for being here this afternoon for our special event titled Baylor Alumnae, Leading Texas Libraries. And it's presented in partnership with Baylor Libraries, the Armstrong Browning Librarian Museum, the Texas Collection and University Archives, the Baylor School of Education, and the Mayborn Museum. I'm Jeff Pirtle, and I'm director of the Texas Collection and University Archives, and it's my pleasure to welcome you all to this beautiful venue for this special event and discussion with Gloria Meraz, who is director of the Texas State Libraries and Archives Commission, and Mary Woodard, who is Texas Library Association president. So if you would please join me in welcoming them to Baylor. I should have said welcoming them back to Baylor. So in addition to Gloria and Mary, we're privileged to have a number of university leaders with us here today. Provost Nancy Brickhouse is here. Dean Jeffrey Archer from Baylor University Libraries. Also representing the School of Education is Dr. Trina Wilkerson. Charlie Walter is here from the Mayborn Museum. And Jennifer Borderud is also here, director of the Armstrong Browning Library Museum. And of course, Lori Fogleman is also here, assistant vice president for media and public relations here at Baylor. And she's going to be the one moderating this afternoon's discussion. So Gloria Meraz and Mary Woodard, both Baylor alumnae, hold the two highest positions in librarianship in the state of Texas. And through their two organizations, the reach extends into all 254 counties in every metropolitan and rural area in the state. Woodard graduated from Baylor in 1985 with degrees in elementary education and English and earned her library science degree from Texas Woman's University in 1987. She served in the Mesquite Independent School District for 35 years as a school librarian, technology facilitator, and director of library services. And in 2022, Woodard was elected president of Texas Library Association, the largest state library association in the United States. Gloria Meraz completed her museum studies degree in 1990, and as a Baylor student, she interned right here at the Armstrong Browning Library and Museum. Several years after completing her library science degree at the University of Texas at Austin, she became director of communications for TLA, a position she held for 17 years before becoming the assistant state librarian in 2016. She was named the Texas State Librarian Archives Commission director and librarian in 2021. So we're thrilled to welcome you both back to campus where it all started. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Lori, who will kick off our discussion. So,
great. Thank
Lori.
you very much, Jeff. Sure appreciate it. And we're delighted to have everybody here with us today. And of course, to have Gloria and Mary with us. And if you'd like to, afterwards, Gloria can give you a 2.5-hour tour that she still remembers of Armstrong Browning Library. But we plan an exciting conversation today and about libraries, their purpose, their future, the joy of reading, the joy of libraries, and just that general feel of a book. But we're going to go back in time a little bit as we begin. And we want to start with how you, Mary and Gloria, ended up here at Baylor University. Gloria, for you, we'll start with you. It was a specific academic program. And Mary, you had a personal reason why you ended up here. Now we'll get to that in a minute. But what brought you here, Gloria, to Baylor University, and then to live in Waco as well?
Surely. Well, first, I want to thank all of you for having me, welcoming me back. This is an honor beyond belief. So I am just thrilled to be back. Thank you. Well, I will say that despite the fact that I had lots of family members that had come to Baylor before me, I was not swayed by expectation. I was very, very set in my mind. And at that point, Baylor had the only accredited undergraduate degree program in museum studies. And I knew from a fairly early age in high school that I wanted to be in the cultural fields. I just knew that's what I wanted. I was born and raised in El Paso, Texas, and had a very good sort of educational beginning. But there was a sort of a snip of a world that opened, and museums, the world of museums just seemed so exciting. And so I came to Baylor, not because my 3 older cousins and my 3 older sisters came to Baylor, had nothing to do with it, mind you. I was very independent minded. But I came for that reason, and was then just, to say blessed is an understatement, to work at Armstrong Browning Library. It not only supported the academic interest I had, but it opened the world to me in ways I had not expected. And that door has never closed. That door has led to pathways that I never dreamed of, and has been one of the most fulfilling aspects of my life. And so, Waco had to come with Baylor. So I came to, came to
That's
Waco.
right. Well, also you were a docent here for 4 years.
Yes, I was.
So, the entirety of your Baylor experience, Armstrong Browning Library and Museum was part of that.
It was wonderful. It was, and I was given truly the learning opportunity to learn about this incredible building and the incredible scholarship that was studied here, which is to the heart of what any library is, but also with the museum aspect of this particular special collection. And I'm looking at Rita, who was just here and so wonderful and so supportive, as were everybody here at Armstrong. But I was given an opportunity to work on displays, which is not sort of full-blown exhibits, but it was that kind of work. So I was doing research and writing text and putting 3-dimensional artifacts together, and it was an incredible learning experience. And I did give a 2.5-hour tour because I really thought somebody wanted it, did not realize they were joking.
Oh, well, Mary, tell us how you decided to come to Baylor University.
My mother told me I had to come here.
So you followed your mother's advice and came to Baylor.
No, I was the first person in my family to go to college. My mom was a church secretary. Dad was a Dallas police officer, and they both had high school diplomas, but had not been able to go to college. And my mom especially always regretted that. I think she was the most curious person I have ever known, and loved finding answers to her questions. We grew up going to the Dallas Public Library every week. And so she was a true lifelong learner. And so it was very important that my brother and I both go to college. And when I was in elementary school, I had a friend who her older brother and sister had gone to Baylor. And we were fortunate to go see Baylor play in the Cotton Bowl back in the 70s. I don't know if any of you remember those days, but they were in the championship in the Cotton Bowl. And so, so that was kind of my first introduction to knowing about Baylor and what Baylor was. And when I was getting ready to go to college, kids now do all these college visits and everything. We didn't do any college visits. None of my friends did any college visits. You wrote a letter and said, send me information about your university.
Yes.
And then send me the packet to apply. And, you fill out that paperwork and send it in, and, you wait. And I was able to get in, and I was here just thanks to my mom saying, that's where you're going to go.
All right. Well, we were blessed that both of you
Yes.
got here, whatever the path
Yeah.
was. But Mary, we'll stay with you. Let's talk about your undergraduate major and how that led you to what you ended up doing as your profession and what you do now. But that undergraduate major, you really just had an epiphany as you walked
did.
across campus.
I did. It was the early 80s, and all of my friends were in business classes. That was the thinking that, you go to college to get a degree in something that's going to make you a lot of money and, be very lucrative for you so you can have a great life. And I couldn't think of anything worse than being an accountant or a marketer. And so, yes, I was walking across campus one day and just had this epiphany that you don't really have to do something that makes a lot of money. You need to do something that is meaningful to you. And that was education. And so I decided to go into the School of Education and get my teaching degree. And during that time, as I was working on my teaching degree, one of the first classes that you take is children's literature, or Kitty Lit, as we called it, with Dr. Patricia Sharp was my professor. And somebody told me she might be here this afternoon. I don't see her, but she's going to try. Okay, all right. But anyway, she was the professor, and I absolutely loved that class. And it started bringing up all these memories of going to the library as a child and how important that was. I worked in my school library as an elementary school student and a middle school student, and just how much I loved the library. And I thought, I want to be a school librarian. And so that is really my ultimate goal. And so I talked to Dr. Sharp about how would I go about doing that. And she said, well, the best thing to do is get your teaching certification, get your elementary ed degree, and then go to for a master's in library science. Those are the credentials that you need to have to be a school librarian. So that's what I did. And I actually did take, I think Baylor did not have a graduate degree in library science, but they had some undergrad classes. So I took cataloging here at Baylor with Dr. Sharp. So I got that out of the way before I went and worked on my master's. And, you know, the way they do cataloging now is so totally different. I mean, we actually had little cards that we wrote with a pencil on, you know, the subject headings and the title and the author and that. So.
Oh, the Dewey Decimal System.
The Dewey Decimal System, right, right.
Oh, well, that's a
Mhm.
great way to understand how you ended up in libraries. And again, Gloria, we know again just how formative where you are right now, how meaningful this place is to you. But how did that then lead to where you ended up in libraries and archives? So what was your first entryway post Baylor into that line of work?
Well, and it did have its genesis here and directly in this building because I had the opportunity to work with manuscripts and with rare books. And so I knew that I was going to further my education, and I had been very focused on museums, but this place literally transitioned that to focus on the printed word, on the written word, primary materials. So I knew I was going to go back for a master's, and I was looking at programs, and I was actually going to get my specialization in rare books and archives. So when I got my MLIS, and that was at UT Austin, that was my area of specialization, and I had started working toward a doctoral degree and going in that fashion. And I had an internship at the Texas Library Association. They needed an archivist intern, and my very great mentor at UT Austin, Dr. David Gracie, kind of recommended me for that, and so I did that work and was fascinated by the world of libraries and the progression of the cultural fields. I still had museums very much in my mind. I still had rare books and archives very much in my mind, but I saw the transition between the primary record, whether it was written or in 3D format, going to the published record. And you can't have the published record unless you understand the primary record. And I just saw this wonderful sort of continuity. And then through my work at the association, working on their archives and looking at the world of libraries and how that knowledge was actually put forward to the public, I thought, man, this is for me. And that was another great opportunity to learn about the business aspect of libraries. One of the great things that you have when you work for nonprofits or for libraries is you get the world's longest titles. I was the archivist intern / international representative / exhibits assistant. And they fit it all in a little business card, you know, God bless the little hearts. But it was very instructive about the world of libraries and the relationship among all of the cultural fields and how we present that to the world. So I pivoted very much intellectually, and I felt that I knew enough about all of these fields that I could talk about them. And then the role for communications director opened, and it was a mighty big job for someone who was pretty new into the field. It involved publications, public relations, and government relations. So I was actually doing a lot of lobby work, government relations work for the association, managed the journal, did a lot of publication work with them, and a lot of PR campaigns. And talk about hitting the road running. But it was fascinating because I felt like I learned to talk about what we do and to try to make the case, not just to the public to use and appreciate what information means today, but also to integrate it into how we think of education, how we think about cultural institutions and the support it needs. So that was very, so much a part of my life for a long time. And I had spent a great deal of time talking about the Texas Library, the Texas State Library and Archives Commission, working for the budget, working for resources for kids. And at some point I thought, you know what? I need to get in there. I need to know what this organization is and how to now work and serve the public through the government aspect of it, to actually get in there and see that work. And then that led to my current position.
Right. That's fascinating stories about trajectories, you know, how you might wear multiple hats, but boy, how that prepares you
It does.
for the world.
And the one thing I'll say is, the one thing about, for all of you who are in libraries, who are thinking about libraries or archives or rare books or museums, you learn so much more than you think you know. And more than almost any other profession, it will translate to wherever you are. If you know how to use information, how to find it, how to present it, there isn't a field you cannot conquer. So just keep that in mind.
We'll talk about just the changes in just how we access information nowadays and how that impacts libraries. But we know that, you know, libraries are vital to education, and education is vital to libraries. I mean, that just that makes a lot of sense to say those two things. But let's talk about successful programs and collaborations that you all have experienced between libraries and educational instruction, whether that's in schools or whether that's in the public sphere in Texas. So, you know, to talk collaborations, Mary, would you like to
Sure.
on that one first?
Well, first of all, you know, you're talking about the connection between libraries and education. I feel like, and Thomas Jefferson said that libraries are essential to a civilized society. And so that kind of leads to the collaboration piece where you're working with other people to make sure that everyone is meeting their goals. As director of library services in Mesquite ISD, we did lots of collaborative projects with different departments in the school district. Of course, supporting curriculum is, you know, one of the main things that we did. And so we did a lot of work with our English language arts team to support research skills, training librarians how to teach research to kids. We also worked with them on a fantastic summer reading program. We did a gamified summer reading program, and we also partnered with our public library on that. So it was a citywide summer reading program that kids could sign up for. And as they read, they recorded minutes that they read and were able to play games and things along the way. So that was a lot of fun and a very rewarding partnership, and something that has continued since I retired in May. And but this school year, they have continued working with the public library. And I'm very excited to say that, and this was something that we've been working towards for years. And I'm excited that it's finally happened. The public library has now offered a public library card to every student in the district. So that's a very exciting thing that's been a long time coming. Wow. Another collaborative project that we had was we have a K-2 literacy initiative called Read, Play, Talk, because before kids get to school, they need to be read to, they need to play, and they need to talk. You have to read to your kids, play with your kids, and talk to your kids. And so that was our initiative. And the way librarians supported that was a lot of them started what they call baby book clubs, where parents would bring in their toddlers a certain afternoon or morning a week, and they would do activities in the library, have story time, those kinds of things. So we did that. We also supported every year we have a Read, Play, Talk fair where parents can come in. And so we would set up stations where kids would have opportunities to read, play, talk, write, and sing as well, all of those things. And then we also hosted a book fair at the Read, Play, Talk fair. So lots of different opportunities. Technology, of course, is big in libraries now. We partnered with our instructional technology department in the district to provide what we called them Tinker Tubs, and they had little coding robots in them, games that kids could play with the robots, VR goggles, breakout boxes, all of those kinds of things. And we, the librarians could borrow those different tubs with this different equipment and take those to their campus and use those. And our instructional technology people helped us train how to use that. So a lot of different partnerships.
Yeah, a lot of collaboration. I love hearing whether that was in the school setting or whether that's community partnerships.
Yeah, both.
And that's exciting, especially the library cards. That is neat.
Yeah.
So, but Gloria, now let's take that for you, partnerships and collaboration within the public sphere in the state of Texas.
Well, in different capacities, some with when I had my tenure at the Library Association, and then sort of in this more government world, but certainly partnerships with community organizations for literacy, both supporting them, but also in outreach, how to increase the muscle of any one organization to get the word out, to deliver programs. And we worked on, gosh, all sorts of things from, again, literacy programs. After natural disasters, after Katrina, we did a huge book drive, and I will never do a physical book drive again. It is exhausting, but what it did was bring a lot of partners, even more than the actual stuff. It was bringing a lot of like-minded organizations who wanted to react quickly. And so that was very meaningful and had long-lasting impact. And the association went on to create disaster recovery grants. And it was that kind of partnership that led from the immediate need to be filled, but also more of a structure going forward to try to jointly solve problems, which I think is part of it. You kind of partner with people because you want to accomplish something that you can't accomplish alone, but also to build a pathway going forward. And so a lot of the work at the association was with those outside partners. And I just have to say, every time I listen to Mary speak about all she did with school libraries, I want to become a school librarian and I want those tubs. It just sounds so fun. But now within this state role, we partner with other state agencies. One thing that comes very close to mind, and I can take absolutely no credit for this. This was the fantastic staff that we have at the state library. Through some grant money with the Texas Workforce Commission, created a digital literacy toolkit. And they worked with partners to create it, to translate it into different languages, worked with workforce solution boards locally throughout the state to disseminate that, to be able to get that into the hands of individuals and families to use together. And I think that that's what's really exciting, because there are so many of us who care about reading, who care about literacy, who care about educational attainment. And many of us tackle it through our own little lens, but it's only through partnership that you really have that muscle I'm talking about to really put something forward.
All right, now let's transition to the news a little bit, if that's okay with you. You know, we think about archives, and we hear about some government documents being found in private residences. We see some headlines and read news stories about such topics as book bans and things like that. So what I want to know is, how do you navigate controversies such as these, and then the political pressure then that comes with taking a position on either side of an issue? Gloria, will you start?
Sure. This has been one of the, and I've been around the profession and issues for a very, very long time. I've never seen the conversation as heated as I have over the last couple of years. I come to you from the position of working for state government. I work for the State Library and Archives Commission, and I work for the governor. And I come with that lens because I have a duty to enact the rules and the will of the people who put us in place. That being said, I think over the last couple of years, it has been very interesting. We don't have a position per se. I mean, we don't as an agency, but certainly, like I think everyone, what we care about is good quality information being available. We care passionately about the education of our young people and having good resources, and trying to have a good productive conversation on what we need to do. We don't, as librarians, and Mary is the librarian of librarians. You know, it's wanting to have honest conversation, to admit humbly where there are things that we can do better, but also being proud of the things that we do well. And I think that what the last couple of years has shown is that those of us in the field, we know so much about what we do, but not everybody understands that. And so some of it is on us to educate a little bit more. It's also on us to listen and to figure out, you know, where there are points that we need to sort of come together and work, not just within the profession, but with our communities, with our parents, with stakeholders, with leaders who have questions, and how we can get to a better place. But I have, and I don't mean this to sound Pollyanna-ish, because I'm not, but I have great faith that what we all want the same thing. And it's trying to figure out how to navigate towards that. But it has been very, very difficult. There is nothing more personal, I think, than a concern for our families. And I've said this to some folks before, this notion that information is power. And to your point about the archives and who has it, and you know, the authentication of information, all of those things are very powerful. And so it is not surprising at all to anybody who deals with information that the stakes are incredibly high. And so it has been difficult because there have been so many concerns in trying to get to the truth and the middle ground of, this is actually what we do as a profession. This is what we can do. These are areas that we can work on. So it has been interesting. And I do want to very much thank Mary and all of the practicing librarians who have had to wear many, many hats over the last couple of years, and doing continued great work, and also looking to how they work with their communities. Mary?
So Gloria talked about the educational aspect. That's kind of where I fall when I'm talking to people about this issue. You know, it's important for people to understand that every parent absolutely has the right to determine what their child reads. They don't have the right to determine what everyone's children read. And so, you know, making that point and helping them to understand that that's the way things work. And we've got longstanding policies in place that use that idea as a guideline. We also want people to understand that in a library for high school kids, and honestly, the majority of the issues that we've seen are at the high school level. People talk about children, but these are materials that are for teenagers, sometimes 17, 18, 19 years old. So, you know, they are close to being adults. And so sometimes there's a little confusion in the terminology about that. People think that these materials are in an elementary school, and they're never found in an elementary school. But so in a 9 through 12 school, you know, you have 14 through 18 or 19 years old, you have to have materials that are age appropriate for all of those age ranges. And every book in that library is not going to be appropriate for every student in the school. But sometimes when you pair up the right book with the right kid and it meets a need for them, it is really transformational. And that's what we don't want to see fall by the wayside. where those kids are not able to get a book that speaks to their own needs. So yeah, it's really just about educating people and kind of about what librarians do and how collections are developed, how they're made, that every district has a collection development policy and collection development guidelines that they use. Some of the issues we see, though, is that the state does not require a certified librarian on every campus. So there are, I heard somebody. So there are a lot of districts that have certified librarians. My district was one. We had a certified librarian on every campus that was trained to do collection development and knew how to do that. Other districts, they may have a paraprofessional who is not trained at all and really, has no idea how to develop a collection that meets the needs of every student on their campus. And so, I wonder if that is not part of the problem. If we've got people doing the job that don't have the appropriate training and are not able to do things following those guidelines, they may not even know there are guidelines there. So just trying to educate people kind of about how librarians do things and just the way that it works is the way that I try to approach it, as opposed to talking about a particular book or a particular situation or something like that. Just those general principles that we use in libraries.
All right, well, let's stay on education then and talk about digital literacy, the information age, and since the advent of the internet, some may be saying, why do we need libraries at all? Why do we need a building to go into and physical materials to handle? And some even say irrelevant, and we don't even need to fund them anymore. So how do you counter those arguments? And then what can we do as citizens whenever we speak out or speak up or just have conversations about the role of libraries and the way that we consume information today? So.
Well, I think, and I have heard, libraries are going away and print is dead since I was in library school. I thought I invented it. Oh, we don't need print anymore. And, and it's like, well, and here we are. I think those discussions, every generation feels like we have discovered, and we're going to fix all of this. And then you understand how people learn. So no, libraries are not going to go away. Libraries by their nature transform. We transform to meet the needs of whatever institution or community that we serve, and that's how it should be. And I think, and books are still very important. Physical books are still very important and have become much more so recently. But the key here is information, and the key here is good information and reliable information. And frankly, the more information, the more bits and bytes we have on the internet and on social media, the more critical is the work of libraries and institutions that can be trusted. With all of the discussions, there is nothing more paralyzing than so many search results and that you don't know what you're getting. You pick the first two and, Wikipedia has come a long way. They're pretty good now. I use them too. But honestly, if what you want is reliable information, if what you want is quality information, that's the Wild West exponential. We still need quality resources. And that requires intervention. That requires intentionality. It requires expertise. The library's place is still very important. Physical spaces are still incredibly important, but the heart of it is the staff. It's the knowledge to curate those collections, to bring together what is going to be meaningful to whatever constituent group, and also to know how to present that to the public, whether it's virtually or in person. And I don't make that distinction anymore, really, because I think I don't need somebody to come into the physical library. If they can get the material they need online, that's fine. But what we need to make sure is that they have access to good quality information. And there's no really good algorithm for that. The human algorithm still remains. And even were that aspect to be mastered, there's a whole other level of teaching. And that's the kernel of what libraries are. It's the people, it's the intentionality, it's the commitment to public access. You can pay for the good stuff, but as a society, we need to have that intellectual commons. We need to provide that base so that everyone can succeed, so that we truly are the great society. I'm sorry, Mary, I'm warming to my soapbox here. There's an awful lot about competition internationally and where this nation is going to be, that nation is going to be. I never worry about where this country is going with regard to our young people in terms of their ability to compete, because of our education system, because of our librarians, because of what we offer. We give children the opportunity to think for themselves, to defend their ideas because they are exposed to different ideas, to be creative. And to be successful, you have to be creative. And a lot of other countries don't offer that. The American student, the American child will always succeed if we provide them the resources that they can access without cost, that is available to them, to be strong in their judgment and to be creative. And that's a lot of what Mary and our school librarians and our educators do. So kicking it off to you.
Yeah.
All right, there you go.
So I'm going to bring it down to a high school example that I've used with high school kids before. So, you know, if you have you're going to the prom and you need to choose your tux or your dress or something. And so you have options. You can, you've got Walmart, but then you could also go to Dillard's and you could see designer clothes at Dillard's. And so with that kind of a problem, an issue that you're trying to solve, you want the best quality outfit that you can get for this very important event. So you're probably not going to go to Walmart. You're going to go over here where you can get a really good quality outfit. So information resources are the same. There are Walmart resources and there are designer resources. And if you just need to answer like maybe how old Kim Kardashian is, you might want to use a Walmart resource, which would be your Google search. That's okay. And that's perfectly fine. But if you are writing a paper on a very important topic that you want a good grade on, you want to use those designer resources, and those are found at your library, because designer resources are not free, but your library has paid for them for you, and you can access them for free to you because they are providing this resource for you. So that's kind of the analogy that I use as why you would use a library as opposed to just doing a Google search, and why we need libraries, because they do provide these designer quality resources for us that we can't just get with a regular Google search.
Yeah. And somebody has to, they'll guide you in using those, let's say, designer resources.
Absolutely.
You know, if you're getting into deeper archives or you're searching journal articles but you know, kind of walk us through that process, and you being, you know, maybe working with high school students or really any student, when they have that aha moment, I understand how to develop these search terms and to get what I need.
Well, and it really starts with the question that they're asking. You know, it's got to be a really good researchable question. So yes, librarians work with that. They teach kids how to ask research questions and then develop those search terms. And the process is different for different resources. And so yes, the librarians would teach how to use specific resources for specific projects and things that kids are using. And the Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills have research standards for grades K through 12. So even our kindergartners in public schools are doing research. You know, it may be that the teacher or the librarian is reading aloud to them, but they have posed a question and we're going to listen for the information that we will answer our question. And, you know, they'll put it on a chart paper, their answers. And so even as young as 5 years old, they can ask questions and know that if I'm in the library, I'm going to be getting quality information from a resource there.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of young people, we have some students who are with us today. They may be thinking, you know, what is it that I want to do? What is my path? Maybe I should walk by Moody Library and have a moment. But
Yeah.
you know, what do you want? What specifically, or maybe some advice you may want to share with current students as they navigate that path within libraries or information and education and archives? And so, any advice for students of today?
Well, I would say once you get your first teaching job, there are 3 people that you need to make friends with on your campus. 1 is the custodian, 2 is the school secretary, and then 3 is the school librarian, because that librarian is going to be able to partner with you on instruction. You know, Texas certified librarians are teachers and have had at least 2 years of classroom teaching experience. And so they can help you with classroom management, with lessons that you're developing. And they can, if you will bring your class to them and work with them, they can help elevate your instruction to something beyond what you could do just on your own in the classroom. So that's what I would
Go
say.
librarian.
There you go.
Okay.
Well, I would say, and it's very hard when you're learning a skill. You want, just tell me what I need to do. And I remember thinking in my master's program, just give me the book that tells me exactly what. I don't care how thick it is. I will read it and I will master it. There is no thick book that way. You know, there are a lot of books, but don't be afraid of not knowing the specifics. I mean, you have courses to pass and all of those things, and that's great. But a lot of what you need in any job, you're going to learn on the job. Every institution will do things slightly differently. Of course, you have a skill set that you will become familiar with. Don't worry so much about the very hard specific things. Worry about the bigger things. Give yourself the opportunity to learn very broad strokes of what you like. If there is an interest, give it a shot. Go pursue it. Find out if there's something there for you. Because some things seem very dissimilar. It's like, well, that's way outside my major. I don't have the credit to do all of this. Well, you maybe don't have to do that, but you can go to a lecture or 2 and figure out if it's worth it, expending a little more time. The 2 things I always have found true over my career, well, 3, because I like to 3 numbers. What I said earlier, which is if you are working in the field of education and information, libraries, these are very flexible skills. You will be positioned to go do a whole lot of different things that you may not even conceive of right now. But with that skill set, you have a very broad range of things that you can go into. So just know that you are equipping yourself with very dynamic tools. The second thing is, I know I didn't like the accounting classes either, but take them. You will be surprised at the things that you think right now, I'll never use that. And I haven't used calculus. I really haven't, but
But you can Google like a percentage calculator.
yeah, I use that.
So.
Yeah, but there are a lot of things that you may not see necessarily as real critical to you. But when you think about where do you want to be? Do you want to be managing? Do you want to be leading an organization? What do you need? I did take business classes, and not a whole lot of it stuck, but enough did that at least I had a framework for other areas that didn't seem very intuitive to me when I was starting out. So there's all that. The other thing is be practical. You need to get a job. You need to, if you have student loans, all of those kinds of things, but be happy. Find the things that gives you joy, the thing that you're going to love, because I love what I do. Mary and I, it's been a rough couple of years. There's been a lot going on, and you have to love what you do. You have to be able to look yourself in the face and say, I've done all that I can, and serve the people around you, whatever you do. serve the people around you.
Amen.
Good job.
And we'll get to questions in just a minute, but you know, you said the word, you said joy.
Mhm.
And I think if we're talking libraries,
Mhm.
we're talking books. I can imagine that those who are joining us via Zoom, those in the room
Mhm.
are probably voracious readers. So let's wrap up our conversation with share some of your favorite books. You know, what book has influenced you the most, or you just loved, that you've gone back to, that you've suggested and given copies at Christmas, or
Mhm.
just in the grocery store passing somebody?
Mhm.
You know, you know, fiction, nonfiction.
Sure.
It's kind of hard to drill down, I know,
Yeah.
but what maybe has been that book for you?
Oh, gosh, that's a hard.
It is a hard one.
I've-
So you
I've-
feel like every book that you've read
Yeah.
leaves some kind of imprint and you learn something from it. So it's hard.
Do you have something recent that you've read that you enjoyed? And
I'll give you, and I'm glad we had a primer for this question, because I thought about it, and a librarian will always change your mind, or his mind, because, you know, we read so much, and there, you know, we love so much. But one book, it's called The City of Thieves by David Benoff, I believe. And I read it several years ago, and it's a really great read. It's set during World War II, during the German invasion into Leningrad, into Russia, and it's kind of a coming of age story of these two young men who are on the search for like a dozen eggs. It's hard to find eggs, and they were put by their boss, go find eggs. So it's their journey, and it's a great, satisfying read. But I was going through something personal in my life at that time that was very turbulent. And the whole story is about, you know, them coming of age, finding each other, friendship, and all of these kinds of things. But what I remember about that, and I have recommended this book because it is a great read, and I went through my, you know, World War II period and reading all sorts of things. But it was, as the calmness came to the characters, as they found themselves, I found myself. I found that peace. And I don't know if it would have the same impact right now, but when I think about that book, I recommend it. Anytime somebody says, you know, I'm kind of going through stuff right now, it's like, just read this book or just listen to it. If nothing more, you'll have a really good time. It'll be good. But, you know, it's just that experience of I'm calm.
Well, I'm a mystery thriller, you know, one of those kind of readers. So I'll share something that I read recently, not too long ago, called The Cartographers. Kind of goes along with our our
that
maps
book.
that we looked at this morning and everything. But and part of the action takes place in a library. It opens with the head of the map collection for the New York Public Library is found murdered at his desk. Yes. And so his daughter, who he's estranged from because they got in an argument about an old gas station map, like from the 30s or something. She's also a cartographer, but they got in an argument about it and they're estranged. But when she comes and sees where his body was in his desk drawer is that map. And so she starts to investigate because she's like, well, why would he have this worthless map? She starts to investigate and she finds that that particular map is exceedingly rare because there is a mysterious collector who has been buying up all the copies of this map and destroying them, and anyone that gets in that person's way. So,
dun, dun, dun.
right. So that was really, really good. And, you know, mystery thriller, sci-fi-ish a little bit because of what the map is and what the map can do. You find, so yeah, it's very interesting. Very, very good.
Well, both are written
Yeah.
down here, so thank you.
5
Thank you.
stars on my Goodreads.
All right. Okay, good deal. Good deal. Well,
Yes.
thank you so much to both of you, Mary and Gloria. What a delightful conversation. And we do have Carl Flynn, who's been moderating our Q&A. And you do have some questions?
Yes, Karen on the Zoom said, comment, not a question. This has been wonderful. Thank you. As a recently retired school librarian, I've enjoyed and agree with all that has been shared. This program needs to be shared with many school boards across the state. So we'll see if we can make that happen with your permission. Question from the audience. What specialty library is your favorite and why? To both of you.
Specialty
Like specialty library, like here on the Baylor campus, or just
Well, why don't we
specialty
start at
library?
Baylor, because that will create some great competition, and then we'll go general.
I'm sorry,
Like a specialty library anywhere, right? So we're not going to put you on the spot and make you pick your favorite at Baylor.
This is it for me. I mean,
I think not here.
Yeah.
But what is your favorite specialty library that you've been to, or just a special library that you visited, or library or archives?
Mary, you go first.
Mhm.
I give the hard ones to
Oh,
Mary
great.
first.
Right.
Oh, gosh.
I'm like the big public
I
library.
know about specialty library,
DC.
but one of your questions before was about what you could do as citizens to
Mhm.
encourage library usage. I think just getting involved and going to your local public library. If you haven't been to your public library in a while, they have so many things beyond just books. I mean, they lend tools, they lend seeds, they lend cooking appliances. I mean, depending on the library, there could be all kinds of special collections that you could borrow. I know that there are some public
Yeah.
libraries that have art
Mhm.
that you can borrow, and you can hang it on your wall for 3 weeks and then bring it back and get another something to hang on your wall.
Mhm.
So, I mean, it is just fabulous. They've got interactive play areas for young children, and just, if you haven't been to the public library in a while, I really suggest that you go. So.
Mhm.
Yep. that's
Put
a
that on
plug
the
for
list along
public
with our two
library.
books. here,
Yeah.
Right.
so.
Yeah.
All right, Gloria.
Well,
Did we give you enough
Yeah,
time
I
to
think
think?
so. There's a whole lot. I mean, there's a Pierpont Morgan in New York that it's just beautiful. I mean, talk about just beautiful rare books and manuscripts. And it reminds, this is my metric for everything else. It has got to be beautiful, or like Armstrong Browning, because I've been spoiled, but it's a beautiful place to go visit. It's got just extraordinary collections. And then also the Library of Congress, when you just go into it's just such an extraordinary, just physical building. You just, looking at the quotes, and it, I perk up just looking at it. But it also reminds me that libraries are at the highest seat of order, as they should be. So, yeah.
Rachel from San Antonio on the Zoom asks, she tells a lot about her experience of public libraries in San Antonio, how they address diverse communities with resources and have done for years. So the question she comes to is, would you expand upon the role of libraries in social equity, please?
I'm sorry, what was that very last
So,
part?
the question about libraries, social equity,
Yeah,
about how they
yeah.
expand and.
Yes,
Sure.
the role of public libraries in social equity.
Well, and this is, I think, where, as a field, we've got to do a lot of work making sure that our staff, the people who populate and run libraries, are truly reflective of the communities they serve. I honestly believe that all types of libraries are strongest when they are true organically related to their institution, to their community, to their public. And I think that comes from having that alignment with the people who are making that library work. And that should translate into having robust, wonderful collections that reflect and respond to communities. And I think it comes from there, is to make sure that we are doing our best to be very broad in the material that we bring into libraries, and broad in how we make that available to the public. And I would love personally to see the talents of a lot of communities, members who have not been served, to welcome them into the library ranks as professionals, to learn from those communities, from those individuals, to help us better serve. And so, yeah, I think that there's an incredible role. And exhibits and displays and, sharing the stories that have not been told. We do some of it, but there's just a whole lot more I think that we can do.
So I would offer a resource for anyone who works with young people. There is a equity curriculum called Project Ready. Ready stands for Reimagining Equity and Access for Diverse Youth. And it was put together, I forget what university they are at, but funded by an IMLS grant, Institute of Museum and Library Services. I have to remember not to use the acronyms all the time. But this is a curriculum that if you're interested in learning about equity and diversity and working with different populations of young people, then it's a curriculum online that you can go through. All you have to do is just Google Project Ready and the link will come up, and it's just a series of lessons where you read information. Has a lot of great primary source documents, videos. It's a really great curriculum if you're interested in learning about that.
A question for me. There are no more other questions, so I'm going to take the chance. An acronym, AI, has been pretty big in the news. So the role of librarians in this new technical wave of AI, very different from web, very different from Google search. It's different abilities that we're just, beginning to explore, some of which people are afraid about is kind of imaginary right now. But what are you hearing in the librarian circles about addressing AI as it comes to maturity?
I mean, I have just not even hardly dipped a toe in. So just, I probably read a lot of the things that you all have read. I think the Bing AI fell in love with the New York Times reporter or something, I think. Did you read that article?
Yeah.
That was very interesting. But yeah, she told him she loved him, and he didn't love his wife anymore. He was he was in love with her. Anyway, very interesting.
Yeah, go ahead.
Very interesting. But I feel like there is going to be a way that we can use AI in education. It's like any tool. Kids have to be taught to use it appropriately in a way that's going to bolster their educational efforts. Instead of using it to write their papers for them, maybe they use it to help them analyze writing or, and like I said, I have not delved into it hardly at all, but I feel like there is going to be a way that we can figure out how to use it appropriately for our kids. So.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I think, and it's exciting, the new technology is exciting, and I want libraries and librarians to be just really eager to learn more about these technologies. They need to be explored. We need and exploited. What can they do? What can't they do? Which is a very important and legitimate question. We should be ready with a skill set with staff coming in to be able to say, hey, we're the experts in how this relates to us. And I think that's very important. I rarely met a librarian who's afraid of technology.
Right.
That there may have been a specter about that when the internet started, but not anymore. I mean, so I think it's about embracing that, but it is just a tool, like everything else. It's just a tool, and tools are good to help us do things more easily, to let us do things that maybe we can't, but they should never supplant our own judgment, our own ability to form our own judgment. So it's a balance. It's how can it help us do things that we can't do now? How can it let us do new things? But it doesn't change the basic stuff that we have to know and teach.
Carl, I think, are we finished? Right. We're done? Okay, good. Because I was going, I don't think we have any more time for any more questions. So, but thank you again, Mary and Gloria and Jeff, back to you.
Sure. Thank you, Lori. Mary, Gloria, Lori, can we all please give them a round of applause? So thank you so much for being here today and for providing such an engaging and informative conversation. It really has been enlightening for us all. And I would like to invite everyone here downstairs to the Cox Reception Hall. We do have some refreshments available and you are all invited. And there is also another event happening here at the Armstrong Browning Library. So if you could proceed quietly to the Cox Reception Hall, that would be preferred. That's the librarian. Shh. Very good. Okay. But thank you, and we'll see you downstairs.